So there's not a lot of famous people that grew up without parents, but they do exist. So the most famous one that actually did grow up in a children's home for a little bit in foster care is Marilyn Monroe. And tragically, even though she became super famous, it still didn't validate and help her to feel like she was accepted. I feel like she still felt empty, and she had miscarriages and failed relationships, and ended up doing drugs that ultimately killed her, which is really sad, really, really sad. She probably was a really sweet lady. When you see clips of her playing the guitar and singing, I mean, she's obviously talented, but it's just sad that the emptiness led her to do drugs. So I don't know, the American system isn't great. Another one that I was really excited about, and I'm probably not going to say his name right, Barry Keoghan. He's from Dublin, Ireland, and he grew up in foster care, and I don't know what happened with his circumstances with Marilyn Monroe. I don't think she ever knew who her father was. That's a possibility. Her mom, though, was severely mentally ill and schizophrenic, and she really just didn't have a good chance at having family to love and accept her. So she had no choice but to grow up in a children's home and then foster care, and I think she went through some abuse, which is typical in foster care, and it messed her up. With Barry, I mean, that kid is kicking ass. He's only 30 years old, and he's kicking ass, and he's been in all kinds of movies, and so proud of him. And I think it might be because America versus Europe is so different. So Ireland being very, very, very different, and their style in how to handle kids that don't have family or don't have proper parents. Whatever the case, he is kicking ass and turning out well. He's married, he has a baby, he's doing so well. I'm like so proud of him. As a someone who's been in foster care, to look at somebody who also survived foster care to kick ass. I'm so proud of Barry. I'm just so proud of him. And he's Irish. I have a bit of Irish in me as well. And so, but I don't think any of my family are from Dublin, though. I think my grand's family are from Cork, Ireland, I think. I gotta research again. But the crappy thing with Ancestry.com is if you don't keep paying your fees, you can't access the information that you already pulled, which to me is crap. So if you already downloaded a census and stuff and paid for that, you don't have access anymore. So you only have access if you pay for their site. That's crap. So anyway, the other person that's famous and a celeb that's also gone through foster care is Lenny James. He was in The Walking Dead, and then he was in Fear of the Walking Dead. He played the character Morgan, with the stick that he would twist and stuff and spin around like a ninja. But he grew up, he had a choice. He could have gone to America to grow up in foster care here or stay in Britain. And him and his brother chose to stay in Britain, which obviously did a better job of raising him than if he had come to America. So, kicking ass and a celebrity, and he's turned out really well, and proud of him as well. So it's nice to see that. Now, one story I came across recently, he didn't grow up in foster care, but his story is still really tragic. I was watching the classic movie The Blob I think it was from the 50s. It had Steve McQueen in it, and I read his background. I just felt so bad for him. So he had a mom. His dad just totally bailed on the family and just left. And so it was just him and his mom, and his mom couldn't raise him, and she was an alcoholic, so she left him with her parents. He was doing really well with her parents. Then she forced her parents to let him come back to live with her, and at this time she was with some random guy. That guy that's his stepfather abused the crap out of poor Steve so badly, and it started making him have problems. So then she made him go back to the grandparents again, divorced the guy for whatever reason. I mean, she was an alcoholic. Then she goes to another state and demands the parents let her have Steve McQueen back again. Again, has another guy that abuses the crap out of poor Steve. Steve had a learning disability. I think he was dyslexic. And so he was struggling in school, being physically abused at home by this guy, was doing really well with his grandparents. And this time, she wanted to send him back to the grandparents again. Grandparents couldn't handle him because he was so hurt and so full of pain. He was rebelling and not doing well in school. So he just left on his own. And it's a miracle he survived and that he did what he did and became an actor and, and a celebrity. It's just amazing what he overcame. And it's also very tragic and sad with his background. He just wanted to be loved and had the stability of his grandparents, and his mom just kept yanking him back and forth. And I feel like if she just left him alone to live with the grandparents, he probably would have had a better, stable life and would have turned out better. And it just is heartbreaking. But read up on Steve McQueen. It's interesting. I never cared about him until I watched The Blob out of being bored and needing something to watch to take my mind off all my stress. And Halloween season last week, I was like, I need to watch a good horror movie and something classic and something I really haven't seen before. So I watched The Blob, and so I was like, he's a good actor. I could tell he's a little bit nervous and fidgety. I wonder what's up with that. I wonder what's going on with him. And just to see that the poor guy had a really hard, tragic life is just really, really sad. Another actor that basically raised himself, was Cary Grant. Poor Cary Grant. So he's British, and whatever reason, his family failed him, and he left and came to America as a kid, and he was in the circus and doing all kinds of stuff. Learned comedy, so that's what tailored his comedy background, was being in the circus, being in all this comedy stuff in New York. And basically the poor kid raised himself. So to overcome that and become this huge iconic star that men wanted to be like, men emulated Cary Grant, wanted to be just like him because he dressed so manly and so elegantly and so beautifully and just carried himself so well and was just such a beautiful man, and dropped his British accent for that transatlantic accent that was popular in the 30s and 40s movies, and just a beautiful man, and really wanted to find love, and finally found that deep connection, and finally found a woman to love him late in his life, had one daughter, and it really made me feel bad for him, and he died. He just seemed like he had so much love to give and just had a hard time finding someone to connect and accept him, because he's such a huge celebrity and looked at in such a way because he was so beautiful. Such a beautiful man Cary Grant was. And in so many movies, a lot of Hitchcock movies, and just really, really, really super talented, and just really talented with his comedic timing, and just a really good actor. And it's just sad that he really tried to have relationships and tried to do the best he could, and finally found love at the end of his life, which I guess is better late than never, but his life was so tragic when you look at it. And the fact that he raised himself, he was just a kid when he came to America. Like, he was like, I think 14, maybe younger, when he came to America off the boats from England, and worked in New York, and he worked his ass off to get to where he was. It by no means was handed to him. Even though he was an incredibly beautiful man, the success wasn't handed to him. He worked his ass off. And so I really, really admire that. But yeah, so those are a few celebrities that I've researched recently that have come from tragedy. Some doing the best they can, and I feel like the odd thing, I feel like unfortunately, I feel like America screws you up worse compared to if you have, you know, a background from the UK or from Europe or Ireland. I feel like a little bit more stability with how they do things. They're more collective as opposed to the individualism that America has. I think, and it's hard. I'm very independent, and I was pushed to be independent by my dad, which kind of helped me to survive. But right now, you know, I have absolutely no supports except for praying to God. And so it's a proven fact that if you have supports in your life, it's easier. And it's been tough because my schedule for work, my schedule from grad school, it limited my ability to have relationships. And then I was in relationships with guys that were very controlling and isolated me and didn't want me to socialize because they were jealous. Like the guy in college that I was engaged to, he was jealous of any guy that looked at me. And at the time I was playing intramural soccer and was on a co-ed team, although the girls decided not to play, so I was the only girl. But he was jealous of the attention I was getting and didn't want me talking to guys. And a lot of the relationships I've had, I'm like, I'm so super loyal. There's no way I'm going to cheat. I've never cheated. And it's always been the guy that cheats that's super paranoid about me cheating and insecure. So, but out of my loyalty and wanting to people please and stuff and please a man, I've allowed myself to be isolated, and it was a bad choice. But anyway, I'm just proud of those guys. So Lenny, I think his name Lenny James. Yeah, Lenny James, and then Barry Keoghan, however you pronounce his name. He's Irish. He's from Dublin, Ireland. I couldn't quote you the movies he's in. I came across him by accident. And I'm just amazed at how awesome he's doing. He's got over 900,000 followers. He is just kicking ass. I'm so incredibly proud of him. He's got a family, and he's only 30. He already has a baby and a wife, and he's only 30, and he's kicking ass in movies and getting respect, and he's kicking ass despite his background. I'm so incredibly proud of him. And same with Lenny James. I mean, he kicked ass and was in The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. They asked him to be in Fear the Walking Dead to try to save that franchise. So kicking ass as well. He's doing well too. So, you know, the only one to not do well is, unfortunately, Marilyn Monroe. So, anyway, I highly recommend you look into Cary Grant and Steve McQueen and watch some classic movies. The acting is just so different compared to nowadays with the dependence on CGI and the crap writing. They don't care about plots anymore. Although I will tell you, you should give a chance to a lot of the fantasy shows that are out there right now. The Wheel on Amazon is good. The Lord of the Rings, The Power of the Ring, or whatever it's called, on Amazon. Everybody is like talking so much shit about it, and it's like you're not allowed to like that show. It's a good quality fantasy show. If you were that offended by it not closely following the lore of Lord of the Rings, then take yourself out of that equation and just look at it as just a fantasy show. If you look at it that way, trust me, you'll appreciate it more. And then, of course, House of the Dragon. And, always can go back and rewatch Game of Thrones. Of course, only the good seasons. But there's so many great shows out like that I seek out for the good quality acting and writing. And despite the CGI. So I highly recommend that. And then also for DC, so again, the DC hub used to exist, and when it existed, it created shows like the Titans and Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is a split off from Titans. Both fantastic shows. They're on HBO Max. Highly recommend. There are some, of course, pleasing, of the cultural stuff that's going on. You just got to get over it. If you don't want to watch that episode, just move on. So there is a couple episodes where it's highly sexualized for Doom Patrol and has a cross-dresser, transsexual person. Just move on if you don't like it. I mean it's part of the culture now. It's not going away. So just skip over those episodes or whatever and just keep watching. There is one actress that's really annoying in Doom Patrol that I don't like. She plays a multi-personality disorder with powers, and that although that could be a great character, the person that portrays it is super highly annoying. So I wish I'd give more time to the other actors. The guy that's playing Cyborg is a good actor. The lady playing the Blob, or I forgot her name, Miss Flexible or whatever her name is, she's a fantastic actress. I mean, she proved it in last season. She has got some depth in her. She's really good. I wish they'd give her more writing and more screen time, but instead they give it all to that multi-personality disorder actress lady that is awful. That is like whiny, annoying, super annoying, like fingers on a chalkboard annoying. She is super annoying, but despite her, Doom Patrol's good. Brandon Fraser does have some bits in it. I think he's left it to go back to returning to making movies. It seemed like that was setting up for the final season that they just had last year. I think that he's pretty much done with Doom Patrol, unfortunately. But Titans, great season so far. They opened with a couple episodes just now for the 4th season. Really good. Highly recommend. They've got a lot of the DC animated movies that they've created that came from the DC stream, as well as that they've created on HBO Max. Highly recommend those two. Like Justice League Dark, that's a really good one with Constantine and Batman, and it's a really good one. Highly recommend that one. There's quite a few animated movies on there in the DC hub I highly recommend, so definitely check those out. And I guess that is about it. Thanks for watching, and I guess next time, if I think about it, I'll bring up any more actors or celebrities that I think have gone through adversity, that have overcome, and I'm proud of them. I will say, in closing, I will say that Henry Cavill has overcome a lot. Although he came from family, he did go through boarding school. His experience with boarding school mirrors so much what I went through when I was in foster care, with me moving to another state and me starting over. And I started in the spring semester of my freshman year, and just like what he said, cliques already started by the time he went to his boarding school, because he transferred from another one. And so the cliques and friendships that were deeply bonded had already formed from being together the previous 2 years, and it was hard to fit in, hard to be accepted. I went through that same thing. So the kids already had their cliques and were tight formed from 7th and 8th grade, and I'm coming in spring semester my freshman year. So I tried to get along with kids and hung out with them as much as I could. Didn't really fit in with any clique. I focused on working, doing my chores, keeping up my grades. Played a bit of soccer, was involved in art, and that's how I kept my sanity. Oh, and I was involved in music. I sang. So that's how I kept my sanity. But it was rough, and I admire Henry Cavill because he had to depend on himself. He tried to form friendships and relationships with guys at his boarding school, and that was an incredibly isolating, difficult time, much like going into foster care. I mean, it mirrors what he went through was trauma that is equivalent to what I felt like going into foster care, what it feels like going into a children's home. His experience is exactly the same. It's really tragically the same. And he came from parents in a good background. So just because a kid could come from good parents, a good background, and money doesn't mean that they won't go through trauma and experience that shapes them and changes them. But it formed him to become a fantastic and sweet, adorable guy. And I love all his nerdy hobbies. I wish that I could be his best friend and do the hobbies with him. He's so fun and interesting. But that's another actor I look up to and respect, and he has kicked ass, and he's been through his own adversity and controversy and overcome a lot, and just proud of him. And so those are the actors. So Lenny James and unfortunately Marilyn Monroe, Barry Keoghan, and Henry Cavill. So proud of them, and go watch their shows and movies, and that's about it. Thanks for watching.